The lights are down low in a Nashville office that hasn't existed in 50 years. A cigarette burns in a glass ashtray. A reel-to-reel spins, and a voice, untouchable, aching, fills the room. Down the hall, a man signs a contract he'll spend his life trying to escape. This is the sound of country music being born.
That's gone by, another baby's
It's also the sound of it being sold, split, and stolen, one signature at a time. Subscribe now. Because tonight we open the vault on the labels that decided who became a star, who got buried, and who paid for it in silence. Number 1 is a story of prison, betrayal, and a song a label tried to make disappear. The countdown begins now.
We'll make a scene about a man that's sad and lonely.
Number 10, Patsy Cline, 4-star records, Walkin' After Midnight. A bus at 2 in the morning, rattling down a 2-lane highway. A young woman leans her head against the cold window, humming a melody she isn't fully allowed to record. Her name is Patsy Cline. She has $200 to her name and a contract that owns almost every note she sings.
out in the starlight.
In 1954, 22-year-old Cline signed with 4-Star Records, run by Bill McCall. The fine print was a trap. She could only record songs 4-Star's own publishing arm owned, earning flat session fees instead of royalties. Friends remembered her calling it a Hitler contract. When Walkin' After Midnight crossed over into a national sensation in 1957, it made the label rich. It made Cline almost nothing. When Cline's 4-Star deal finally ended, records showed she'd earned roughly 2.34% in royalties, half the industry standard, and owed the label nearly $5,000, despite being one of its biggest assets. That contract wasn't unique. 9 names down, we meet a man who had to change his own name to survive one just like it. Number 9, George Jones, Starday / Mercury, Musicor, White Lightning. A cramped Texas recording booth, 1956. A young man with a voice like a wounded angel records a rockabilly song under a fake name, Thumper Jones, because Starday won't let his real name near a genre it considers dangerous. It's the first sign of a career shaped by other men's decisions. When Starday partnered with Mercury in 1957, White Lightning made George Jones a genuine star, but his direction still belonged to producer Pappy Daly. Later on Musicor, the grip tightened further. When Jones fell in love with rising star Tammy Wynette, Musicor refused to let him record on her label Epic, and Epic refused to let her sing on his. Two people who loved each other were kept apart by 2 competing catalogs. Jones spent years unable to record with his own wife because 2 labels were fighting over who would profit from the union. While he stayed bound to a Musicor contract he'd later admit he despised, obligated to keep delivering records he didn't believe in. If a label fighting over a marriage sounds cruel, wait for the Bakersfield rebel who hid behind a fake name of his own.
heard him a moaning as he hit the ground. Mighty.
Number 8. Buck Owens, Capitol Records, Act Naturally.
All I gotta do is act naturally.
A smoky honky-tonk in Bakersfield, mid-1950s. A young guitarist records a rockabilly single under the pseudonym Corky Jones, terrified it'll wreck his image before Capitol Records even builds one for him.
On his bended knees, and I'll play the part.
When he signs officially in 1957, the label pushes a polished, string-heavy sound that buries what makes him electric on stage.
In the movie, then I know that he
Owens fought for something rawer, the Bakersfield sound, built in open defiance of Nashville's polish. Act Naturally helped make him one of the decade's biggest stars, with 21 #1 singles.
will come to see me in the movie.
But like nearly every artist of his era, he didn't own his own masters. Capitol did. It took 2 decades of superstardom before his final Capitol contract finally handed the masters back to him.
You're gonna plainly see the biggest fool.
Once Owens finally controlled his own catalog, he pulled it from circulation entirely. For roughly a decade, one of country music's most successful bodies of work simply vanished. Not because Capitol wanted it gone, but because Owens, finally in control, chose silence over letting anyone profit from him again.
So well, I hope you.
Owning your masters was a rare victory. Next, a woman who understood exactly what that ownership was worth and said no to the king of rock and roll to keep it.
All I gotta do is act naturally.
Number 7. Loretta Lynn, Decca/Mickey Records, The Pill.
Your last time, 'cause now I've got the pill.
A tape reel sits untouched in a Nashville vault for 3 years. Executives keep listening, keep flinching, keep shelving it.
Won't take up so much yardage.
It's a song about birth control, sung plainly by a coal miner's daughter who has already survived more than most executives could imagine.
How you and your hens play.
Loretta Lynn wrote The Pill as a defiant, funny anthem of a married woman free from the fear of another baby she couldn't afford. Decca, soon to become MCA, understood exactly what firestorm it would ignite and sat on the finished recording for years before finally releasing it in 1975.
Mini skirts, hot pants.
More than 60 radio stations refused to play it. A Kentucky preacher devoted a sermon to condemning it. It still became one of the biggest hits of her career.
Easy now, since I've got the pill.
A major label sat on a completed recording for roughly 3 years out of pure fear, and when it finally released The Pill anyway, the song outsold almost everything else Lynn had ever made, proving the label's caution had cost her, not protected her.
Her nest, and I'm ready to make a deal.
If a label could bury a song for 3 years out of fear, imagine what happened when a label decided an artist's face itself was the problem.
I'll be daddy, don't you worry, Nana, 'cause Mama.
Number 6. Tammy Wynette, Epic Records, Stand By Your Man. A Music Row studio, late 1960s. A producer sits behind the glass, absolute in his authority. A young singer, a former hairdresser from Alabama, waits to be told what she'll sing next. Her name is Tammy Wynette. His name is Billy Sherrill. Sherrill signed Wynette to Epic and became the architect of nearly everything she recorded, co-writing her signature hits, including Stand By Your Man. Wynette later said her trust in him was so total that if he'd walked in and said they were cutting Yankee Doodle, her only question would be the key. One Nashville songwriter reportedly gave up pitching her songs entirely, certain it was pointless. Everyone knew who really chose her material. For much of her career, one of country music's biggest stars recorded songs filtered almost entirely through a single producer who also controlled her image, so completely that Wynette reportedly disliked Stand By Your Man and feared it would hurt her, only for Cheryl to insist it be released anyway. It became her defining song, and one of the most debated in country history. Control over what an artist sings is one kind of power. Control over what the world knows about an artist is another. Number 5. Charley Pride. RCA Records. Kiss an Angel Good Mornin'.
Kiss an angel good morning.
A record sleeve slides across a radio station desk. 1966. No photograph, just a name. Country Charley Pride. The disc jockey plays it, never knowing the fact his label decided the country shouldn't learn yet.
And every time they ask me why, I just smile and
Producer Cowboy Jack Clement brought Pride's demos to Chet Atkins, head of RCA's country division, who signed him despite knowing exactly what he risked in a segregated industry. RCA shipped Pride's earliest singles without publicity photos, letting audiences fall for the voice before they ever saw the face.
say, you've got to.
By the time Kiss an Angel Good Mornin' made him a crossover superstar, Pride had already become RCA's best-selling artist since Elvis Presley.
Like the devil when you get back home.
RCA made a calculated decision to conceal Pride's race from country radio for roughly 2 years, not to protect him from prejudice, but to protect their investment from it, betting correctly that listeners who'd already chosen his voice couldn't take that choice back once they saw his face.
Simple thing.
RCA learned exactly how far it could bend the rules to protect a hit. Coming up, a different artist at that same label refuses to let it bend him at all.
Think about it when you're gone.
Number 4, Dolly Parton. RCA Victor, I Will Always Love You. A phone rings the night before the biggest session of a young songwriter's career. On the line, a manager representing the most famous entertainer alive, calling with a demand disguised as formality. Dolly Parton had built something rare, her own publishing company, meaning she, not a label, owned her songs. When Elvis Presley wanted to record I Will Always Love You, his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, called the night before the session, insisting Presley never recorded anything without half the publishing rights. Parton said no. It was, in her words, the most important copyright in her company. She cried all night over the decision.
Each step of the way.
Was demanding a cut of an artist's publishing in exchange for a star's cover version was so normalized that Parker treated it as an unquestioned rule.
Bittersweet memory.
Most songwriters in Parton's position would have caved. Her refusal is remembered precisely because almost nobody else said no, and the song she protected would later become one of the best-selling singles in music history, entirely on her own terms. Refusing a deal was rare. Refusing the album a label wanted was almost unthinkable. Number 3, Johnny Cash, Columbia Records, Folsom Prison Blues.
From prison, and time keeps dragging on.
Folsom State Prison, January 1968. A man in black walks out to perform for hundreds of inmates. His own label didn't want him here. Some feared this concert could end his career.
To watch him die.
Cash had wanted a prison album for over a decade, but Columbia executives considered it commercially reckless, fearing radio and advertisers would recoil.
I bet there's rich folks eating in a fan.
It took a change in producers, Bob Johnston taking over in 1967, for the door to open, reluctantly, with minimal promotional support behind the finished record. Cash performed 2 raw, unfiltered sets. Released that May, Folsom Prison Blues and the album built around it were certified gold within months.
When I was just a baby, my mama told.
Columbia didn't just doubt Johnny Cash's prison album. They believed it could end his career and invested almost nothing in promoting it once it existed.
In Tennessee, W.S. Holland.
The record that reshaped what country music was allowed to say happened almost entirely in spite of his label, not because of it. Cash proved his label wrong by making the record anyway. Our next artist went to war with his label directly, and won a freedom Nashville had never given a country artist before.
On a little farther down the line, far from Folsom.
Number 2, Waylon Jennings, RCA Records, Good-Hearted Woman.
She's a good-hearted woman.
A Nashville hospital bed, early 1970s. A man lies flat on his back, worn down by strings and backup singers he never asked for, played by session musicians he didn't choose. He's done being a passenger in his own career. Jennings hired New York attorney Neil Reshan, an outsider with no ties to protect in Nashville, and told him to fix the contract or end it.
To be a good-hearted woman.
In 1972, Reshan negotiated something almost unheard of: full creative control, Jennings' own touring band in the studio, and no executive standing over his shoulder.
She's a good-hearted.
RCA fought it, but the deal held, and it helped launch what became the Outlaw movement. Jennings, Willie Nelson, and others rejecting Music Row polish for something raw and real. Good-Hearted Woman became one of the sound's defining hits. For most of his RCA career, Jennings' records were shaped by musicians and arrangements he never chose, simply because that's how the label's system worked for everyone on the roster. It took a man flat on his back in a hospital, hiring an outsider willing to break the rules, to win a freedom that should never have needed fighting for. Waylon fought the system and won creative control. Our number 1 story is about a man who fought a different system, and even after he won, his own label still tried to bury the truth he was brave enough to sing. Number 1, Merle Haggard, Capitol Records, Mama Tried.
Mama tried, the one and only rebel.
San Quentin State Prison, 1958. A 20-year-old inmate sits in the audience of a concert most men around him will forget by morning. He watches a man in black perform like prisoners are still worth singing to. He doesn't know it yet, but he just watched his own future walk onto a stage. Merle Haggard spent nearly 3 years in San Quentin for burglary and an attempted escape, released on parole with a record most of the industry would call disqualifying. Producer Ken Nelson signed him at Capitol anyway in 1964. a bet almost nobody else in Nashville would have made. Haggard turned his past into songs like Mama Tried, a raw confession to the mother he'd disappointed. But even Capitol had limits. When he wrote Irma Jackson, a love song about a white man and a black woman, the label reportedly balked and held it back for years, wary of the reaction. By 1976, after more than a decade of hits that made Capitol a fortune, Haggard learned what Buck Owens had learned before him. The label wouldn't hand him ownership of his own masters. MCA offered him exactly that.
But Mama tried, Mama tried, Mama tried.
When Ken Nelson refused to match it, Haggard walked, taking one of country music's greatest catalogs to a label willing to finally treat him like an owner, not an employee. A man who'd already survived San Quentin, still forced to fight his own record company just to own his voice.
She tried so very hard to fill his shoes.
That's the truth beneath every story on this list. The industry that built country music also, again and again, tried to own the people who made it worth hearing.
I turned 21 in prison doing life without
10 stories, one truth. Every song on this list was mailed out into the world like a letter to a future none of these artists could fully control, hoping listeners would love the voice enough to fight for it, even when the label wouldn't.
'Cause we both know that I'm
Patsy, George, Buck, Loretta, Tammy, Charley, Dolly, Johnny, Waylon, Merle. They didn't just make country music. They survived the business built to own it.
used. I turned 21 in prison.
Tell us in the comments which story hit you hardest, and subscribe. Because we are not done uncovering what Nashville tried to bury. The music never lies, even when the industry does.
I know I can't be free.